to look at a couple of the findings. Differences in reported snacking foods according to intervention or control group showed no significant differences except for fruit and smoothie and fresh fruit juice intake. To look at the portions of fruit consumed, 1.3 for the control group, and in the most recent UK National Diet and Nutrition Survey, this is actually relatively within that. This was increased to 2.3 in the intervention group. And this suggests that the provision of free fruit in the workplace has resulted in a higher intake by the intervention group. Unfortunately, there wasn't any substitution of fruit for other high energy dense snacks across the intervention period. So to look at gender, there were significant differences for chocolate bar and sandwich consumption, with men having a higher intake of both. Gender differences, of course, are not surprising. Men have a greater energy requirement, and researchers indicated women are generally more knowledgeable about food with a greater awareness of nutrition and health. However, they're also more known to underreport things. In addition to the outcome measures mentioned here, we also conducted a series of one-to-one interviews. I've put a couple of quotes up here as I thought it would be interesting for you to see what people thought about taking part in the study. Firstly, one female participant describes the change in her snacking as she explains that after eating 2 pieces of fruit instead of the usual 1, she has no room to eat a chocolate bar. Also, we found a peer effect, so we didn't just interview people who were taking part in the study, but also people sharing the same office space. And one example given by a participant was that she had noticed a colleague who was not in the study but sat opposite her had started to bring fruit in from home instead of his usual packet of crisps, as he began to feel guilty that other people were eating fruit and that he wasn't. And also beyond the workplace, as the male participant mentions here, that he now has not only changed his eating habits in the workplace, but also this has gone on to the weekend when he's at home, and he also thinks about what he eats then. And of course, with all research, there's been limitations and problems. So the completion of questionnaires was the first problem, with some people completing only 1 and some completing 16. Timing was a big problem. Because everything was completed online, we had access to records of when things were completed. Some people completed it in the morning when they were supposed to complete it at night. Some people completed it on weekends. So we had a great range of when people had completed it. And then general problems in the study were the logistics. So who's going to be responsible for the fruit when it arrives, the time of deliveries, and getting the fruit order right to avoid waste. And the most difficult thing was meeting everyone's fruit preferences. Despite the fruit being free and of very good quality, I received numerous emails to say that pears are too hard, too soft, and my favourite, that oranges were too juicy. On the whole, however, I would say that the fruit was very well received. I think some officers had quite a lot of fun with the fruit, and I believe one officer actually had a competition to see who could eat the most fruit in one day, and I believe the record was 11 pieces. So that person certainly had their intake for that day. And so in summary, workplaces are an ideal environment for developing strategies to improve health. Future interventions need to be innovative and adaptable in order to suit the workplace and workforce. And in terms of fruit intake as part of snacking patterns and energy intake, I think this needs to be further investigated and maybe a fruitful area for future research. And that's everything. Thank you. Questions? Oh, it was a bit short.
Yeah, thank you for keeping the time so well, helping us out. Yep. But at least this gives the opportunity to ask especially questions regarding things you have not understood completely. So please, if you have specific questions. Yes, please.
Yeah, a question. Basically, one might think, perhaps one might think that giving those people a questionnaire which they have to fill in 8 times or something like that, or every 2 weeks, might sensitize them to their food consumption. So my question would be, do you have any results or evidence or ideas about what would happen, or what happened after the study? Basically, when the fruit was still available in the working place, but the question questionnaires were gone.
Yeah, we are going to do a follow-up. So we're going to do some follow-up interviews to see if people have carried on eating the fruit despite it being not there. So but that's, in terms of doing any food questionnaires, you're going to get a bit of bias in terms of people are sensitised to what they feel like they should be completing and what they feel they should be saying. So unfortunately that's something that we can't really adjust for, but we are doing follow-up interviews to see if that's the case.
How large a study would be needed in order to be sure you had enough power to show an effect on?
Well, it was originally calculated to be 500 people.
500, so we
Yeah.
were close here.
Yeah, we were close, but not quite there.
Okay.